Good evening. My name is Jimmy Mbogo. Welcome to KTN News. This is Transform Kenya, where we have all the motivations that affect you and your well-being. Today's conversation is going to focus on the mining sector and the future of mining in Kenya. Now, my guest this evening is a panel of experts. These are experts within that sector. We have on my left, that is Elijah Mwangi, the PS State Department of Mining. Bona PS, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Good evening, viewers.
All right, next to him we have Dr. Patrick Kanyoro, the chairman of the Kenya Chamber of Mines. Dr. welcome to the program.
Thank you.
All right, and next to Dr. we have Simon Wall, the general manager, external affairs for Base Titanium. Welcome to the program.
Thank you. Thanks. Great to be here.
All right, and last but not least, we have Dan Odida, the chairman, Artisanal and Small Scale Miners Association. Dan, karibu to the program.
Good evening, our viewers.
All right, so gentlemen, we want to have this conversation. Now, we know that this is the Mining Week, the Kenya Mining Week Expo and Conference, and a number of issues are going to be deliberated over the next 3 days. But first of all, I want to get your sentiments on the current status of the mining sector within Kenya. I'll start with you, Bona PS. What is your assessment of the mining sector?
Thank you, Jimmy. And let me take this opportunity to appreciate Kenya Chambers of Mine, AWEC, and the sponsors of this year's Mining Week. It has been a long time since the last time that we had this kind of gathering. I would wish to invite those investors and everybody who is in the mining sector to come and witness the great things that are happening here in Nairobi. The mining sector has gone a lot of transformation over a decade ago. The Constitution of 2010 provides that minerals and mineral resources belongs to the people of Kenya. The Ministry of Mining, Blue Economy, and Maritime Affairs, where I'm the Principal Secretary at the Mining Department, is mandated to ensure that the resources that belong to the people of Kenya are well managed, transparently, accountable, and at least they benefit the people of Kenya. We have so many mineral resources in Kenya. The precious minerals like gold, gemstone, we have construction minerals and others. And the Kenya Kwanza government, under the leadership of His Excellency Dr. William Samoei Ruto, created a department specific for mining so that we can inspire the sector and ensure that the mineral resources do benefit the Kenyan government, the people, and by extension, the investors in the sector. We have aligned quite a number of reforms in the sector. We do appreciate that at the moment we do have a moratorium, and for us to ensure that the purpose to which the moratorium was imposed, we have digitized our systems. The online mining cadastre is working. We do intend to ensure that the royalty correction is digitized. Issuance of permits is digitized. Matters to do with laboratory testing and issuance of explosives.
All right.
We do also intend, and we have really invested on our laboratory to ensure that the minerals are tested and for us to be able to assess the royalties. Our lab has been decentralized in the regions where we have a regional mines office to ensure that those services are brought nearer to the people. Of course, we cannot forget the artisanal mining, whereby the ministry has formed cooperatives, or we are advocating formation of cooperatives into the artisanal mining so that they can get the benefit that they can get from the government. Value addition is another area that we have given a priority on. We have opened the Void Gemstone Center, which is operational to take care of gemstones. We are in the process of entering into joint ventures to ensure that Frospa is operational. Granite in Vihiga has been taken care of. Soapstone in Kisii, and without forgetting gold, whereby the government, through joint ventures, intend to set up a gold refinery in Kakamega. In short, there are so much that we are doing to inspire the sector and to ensure that the government benefit that the sector has been opened up. We are accountable to the people, and there is transparency in the way that we do issue permits and any other services that we do offer into the sector as a government.
All right, thank you, Bwana PS. And of course, we'll be getting more into the details of what specific measures the government is putting in place. But Dr. I want to rope you into this conversation and just get your assessment of the mining sector in Kenya.
Thank you very much. As the Kenya Chamber of Mines, we are happy to say that, yes, we have had a very rainy season. Actually, industry has been extremely slow. That is for the period 2018 to about this year, early this year. We want to say that as industry, we are hopeful. Things are starting to look up because just like Bwana PS has clearly stated, the Kenya Kwanza administration is set to deliver transformation that will also have a positive impact on the industry. So from a past perspective, things have been extremely slow. From where we are, full of hope. All right. We are looking forward to getting where we ought to be as an industry.
Full of hope. And of course, that is something that I'm sure the private sector would really want to tap into. Simon, from where you sit as a private sector investor and as a private player, what do you say in terms of the opportunities that are currently there in Kenya? How would you assess it? Is there much that needs to be tapped, or do we need more investors, or are you just okay being the big boy?
Look, I think the word you used there, being opportunity, is the key word here. The mining sector in Kenya offers so much untapped opportunity and potential to really contribute to the county and national economy, to be a huge player in the bottom-up economic transformation agenda of the current government. Huge opportunity, and as has been said by the previous speakers, so much is being done to untap and unlock that opportunity by the government. As private sector, we look for things like, obviously, we're driven by mineral occurrence. Where the minerals are will attract investors, and then we look for things like stability in legal regimes, attractive fiscal terms and the like. But probably one of the greatest opportunities Kenya has is the power in its human resources. Absolutely wonderful people to drive this industry and help it contribute to growth.
All right, Dan, from where you sit, of course, you represent the small-scale miners, and we all know that Kenya is not short of resources, and it is the small-scale miners that are able and are the ones that are likely to find these resources out. So from where you sit, in terms of looking at the small-scale miners, do you think they have been empowered enough to play a bigger part in this?
Thank you, Jimmy. Your question, I want to address it by bringing in some little history about SM in Kenya. You will all agree with me that the SM industry dates back to around 1940, where we implemented the so-called Cap 306, the Kenya mining law by then, which completely outlawed the sector. 76 years down the line to 2016, Kenya came up with a mining act called 2016 Mining Act. And this is the act that has come to recognize the sector. So one, I would say that today, as we speak, yes, artisanal mining is on the right course. One, it is now recognized by the government. And not only just being recognized, but there are also legal frameworks that have been put in place to support the work of the SM in Kenya. Currently, as we speak, Bwana PS has just talked about the imposed moratorium that has stalled the process of issuing permits and licenses, of which the SM sector has also been a victim. But as he rightly puts it, we are looking forward to seeing the moratorium lifted soon, and we expect
the ASM industry in Kenya to be now working legally, where all operations that they do will now be fully recognized and legal. So that is the status in which the ASM industry is now, but we are looking forward to even doing much better with the current government that has also shown a lot of goodwill in terms of prioritizing ASM industry in the list of the activities that they expect to carry out in the sector.
All right, thank you, Dan. So, Bonapius, I want to bring you in now to this conversation properly. That was just your initial sentiments. Now, let's begin the conversation. And the question that, of course, comes to mind is the issue of policy framework. All right, we've just heard about the moratorium that was put in place. Now, I want to understand from where you sit in terms of the policy framework and some of the measures that are going to enable this sector prosper. What are you currently doing as a ministry to ensure that these miners are enabled?
Thank you, Jimmy. The mining sector in Kenya is governed by the Mining Act 2016. It provides quite a number of areas whereby if you want to invest in mining, what is your expectations? And over the years, we have been implementing that Mining Act. Of course, there are some regulations that we do also enacted to ensure that Kenyan and, of course, the investors do benefit. For instance, we have the regulations on goods and services. What it intends to do is to have that the mining where investor has set up a mine, they are supposed to procure goods and services from the local. We have regulations on employment which are supposed to guide the investor on the number of jobs that they are supposed to have as far as the Kenyans are concerned, of course without limiting where cases experts may not be available. We have the local content regulations that are supposed to guide the number of shares a large investment can give to the national mining corporations, what we call the free carriage interest, which is 10%. Of course, we have other regulations. The royalties that are collected by the government, they are supposed to be shared between the national government, the county government, and the community from where mining is done. Currently, we have disbursed 2.9 billion through the Finance Act of 23-24, the financial year that we are in, to go to the counties. There are 10% royalties that are supposed to go to the community where mining do happen. Of course, we are working up on a policy framework which is meant to be subjected for public participation so that once it has been agreeable upon on how that 10% shall be shared, that money shall also be disbursed through the national treasury. Then we have the 1% that is supposed to be paid as part of CSR, what you used to call CSR in essence, but it has been put into law, Community Development Agreement Committee, which essentially it's supposed to be 1% of what revenue generated by a mining company, which is supposed to go to the counties or to the communities where mining is happening. And essentially that money is supposed to be shared in a way such that the projects or the activities that are supposed to be taken into has been agreeable between the representatives of the mining company and the representative of where mining do happen. Of course, over time, we do appreciate that there are some gaps that need to be reworked on. And Jimmy, we have aligned quite a number of policy review so that we can continue aspiring the mining sector. We do intend to review the Mining Act, and soon we shall be coming to the public so that we can get their views on areas where they feel they need to work on. For instance, there has been issues of consent, which has in some way negated the benefit that the Mining Act intended to achieve. There is so much that we are doing as far as the regulation is concerned, including reviewing the royalties that we do correct under the royalties, fees and charges. We have come up with a policy to govern the gemstone, because at a value addition, we do not see how we should continue as a country exporting raw ores. No wonder we have a policy that has been approved by the cabinet, that is the mineral processing and value addition policy. And what we intend to see is to that going forward, of course, if it is approved after we take to the public participation, we limit the number of raw exports that we can do as a country. We appreciate there are some minerals that we can do beneficiation around, and there's no need of continuing exporting them when they are low. The benefit that accrue from value addition are many. We shall create more jobs. We shall earn better pay from these mineral resources. And as a country, we can get more revenue from the same. So those are some of the regulations that we are working on, so that the mining sector can be better managed. Thank you.
All right, Simon, let me come to you. There's the question of the role of the private sector. Of course, policy is key. What would you say, even as the PS talks about relooking at the Mining Act, what are some of the elements of this act that you feel once they have been addressed, we will have investors coming to Kenya and looking to invest in the mining sector?
I think there's two elements to the question, Jimmy. The first one, which we should be very focused on, is how do we encourage more domestic investment in the mining sector? How do we build a local mining sector that's driven by local investment? And that obviously brings to questions about return on investment versus other investment opportunities in the country. And the key challenge there is time. It takes a long time to prove up and develop a medium to large scale mining operation. And the other question is risk. Okay, so you can get a prospecting license or an exploration license that never actually turns into a mining project, so you never get return. So that's something we need to look around. Access to finance, how can we encourage young people? How can we make it as easy as possible for them to do that? When it comes to international investment, Base is Base Titanium is a Kenyan company. We're owned by an internationally listed company. How do we encourage it? Look, we've got to open up the sector, and it's been spoken about a little bit tonight about the moratorium. Really, there is this. The drive should be, once the moratorium's up and running, to issue prospecting licenses and to get as many people on the ground with drill rigs spinning to see if there are deposits worth mining in the country that are economically viable. And then all the questions around the monitoring, evaluation and compliance is obviously important as well. But ultimately what industry wants to see is a clear and transparent licensing system, security of tenure, so once you've got that license, it's secured, you can renew it and you can transfer it from prospecting to mining. You tidy up that stuff, investment will come, money will flow, jobs will be created.
All right, so Dan, I want to come to you and ask you the question of, when we talk about small-scale miners, there is the tendency of having 2 or 3 people trying to mine, as opposed to coming together and making sure that we play a more significant role. So from where you sit, what do you feel has been the biggest hindrance to small-scale miners coming together?
Thank you, Jimmy. This one, I would say that it has been attributed to the fact that this is one industry that has existed for quite long when it is illegal. When a sector is illegal, most likely you won't expect formalization to do well. So the sector has been largely illegal for the number of years I've just mentioned before coming in of the 2016. So it was a sector that the government didn't have a right foot to step on. So nobody, not even the government, even the private sectors, not even the NGOs, were willing to associate with an illegal entity in the economy of the nation. So this is why they've been working in that kind of situation. But by coming in of the 2016 Mining Act, which has recognized miners, and most evidently, today we talk of Artisanal and Small-Scale Miners Association of Kenya, which means there is a very big change that has been experienced and is seen in this sector. Miners have started coming together to work together, and this is why we have ASMAC, and this is why we have even other county miners associations, which are mandated to give or to nominate 3 persons to be included in the county artisanal mining committee. And even the county artisanal mining committees or the county miners associations are also umbrellas of mining groups, small mining groups at the county. So today as we speak, there is a big change. Miners have embraced coming together to work as groups, and that's why even the government you saw recently advocating now for the formation of marketing cooperatives. This is because they've seen that in the sector there is a change. So it is no longer business as usual. They're organized. Today miners are organized. If you go to Kakamega, you go to Migori, you go to Narok, you will find miners, and even across all other counties doing mining, you will find miners getting organized, and they're embracing working into groups.
It's a good thing that you mentioned it's no longer business as usual. And Daktari, I want to rope you into this conversation. As it is currently, the mining sector contributes less than 5% to the GDP. And of course, this is something that we would want to see change over time. From where you sit at the Kenya Chamber of Mines, what are some of the projects that you have undertaken to promote responsible mining?
Thank you, Jimmy. First of all, let me point it out that mining contributes just about 1% to the GDP. There are conversations, very many conversations as to the accuracy of that. And again, that's a topic for another day because it's an issue of accounting. For example, where you're looking at cement and stuff, material for construction not being accounted within that 1%. However, we are positive that with the intended changes by government and with more private sector actors, then it will be possible to move that around about 1% to somewhere 7-8% by 2030. If the changes that we are talking about will be implemented and will be sustained over the next 5-7 years. That is possible to do. Now, as to the matter of what it is that we are doing to change things and to promote things in respect to responsible mining, I will say that the first thing, and I am very grateful that I'm sitting next right to Simon Wall here. In matters of responsible mining, Base Titanium has done something that is on a global scale. They've been able, as our members, to do mining the correct way, and after they have mined, they have rehabilitated the mine such that anybody who had visited that area before the mining activity and visits today, they may think they're in a different area. I'm also very grateful to our member Bamburi Cement. We all know about Harapak. So our members are, to a large extent, particularly the large scale, are of course doing responsible mining. Not all of them are doing. However, we the Kenya Chamber of Mines, we are working on having a code of conduct, so that then our members also have now a responsibility to do what it is that they need to do so as to have the least impact on the environment. We are aware that particularly the artisanal and small-scale miners, whether for gemstones or for gold, sometimes have abandoned pits that have, that are risk to lives, risk to livestock. But that conversation is on the table, so that then we make sure that what it is they are doing, because that's what they are supposed to, those who will be permitted, those who will be licensed, they know that that is one of the things you need to do. You do your work, but make sure that you don't leave the ground as a risk. So yes, we are trying to the extent possible to have our members, and indeed all in the mining community, practice responsible mining. Because we know it is not just about us doing it the right way. It is not just about us being there for the environment. It is also about us being there for the market out there. Because everybody now wants responsible mined products and ethically mined products. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. And of course, the figure that we're talking about is about approximately 1.4% of Kenya's GDP as of 2019. Bwana PS, I want to get your sentiments. I know we are almost due for a break, but I just want to get your sentiments as far as positioning Kenya as one of those countries with great mineral resources. What is the ministry doing to be able to make sure that we attract investors who are going to invest in this sector?
Thank you, Jimmy. We just concluded a nationwide geophysics survey that identified over 970 mineral anomalies in the country. Going forward, we are in the process of carrying out ground truthing to confirm those occurrences. This one is important to the sector because we shall be de-risking because matters investment is mining is very expensive. And it is not a must that when you carry out exploration, you get to find what you are looking for. And therefore, as a government, if we do have the data relating to our mineral resources, it shall be a starting point to guide any investor who may be interested in mining in this country by showing them at least where the kind of commodity or mineral he or she is looking for can be found. Further, we have quite a number of fiscal incentives as a country that we do provide to investors. For instance, any person who hold a mining license, they are exempted from import duty for the mining equipment. Number two, that mining equipment, which is capital expenditure, they are allowable expenses. Anytime that the mining company carry out their financials, they will deduct those costs as part of capital investments. And number three, the CSR that is undertaken by the mining companies is also allowable deductions. And number four, we have special economic zones, which we do encourage that investment in this sector can have the investment on the special economic zone, and that do mean that within some number of years, the tax that is supposed to be payable shall not be paid. Of course, we do appreciate that Kenya is a logistic country. We have a lot of infrastructure. Kenya is a hub in this region, and anybody who intend to carry out mining investment, Kenya has a stable climatic condition, political condition, and therefore we do encourage that we have been having a lot of interest in the mining sector. Some of the mineral resources that are mined, we do have a requirement that traceability, or where the mining has been happened, is it ethical? What are those things that the country is doing? That we feel we have the right atmosphere for any investment in this sector of mining.
All right, thank you so much, Bwana PS. And of course, gentlemen, we still have a lot of ground to cover when we come back. Can we first of all talk about employment? Can we talk about sustainability? Can we talk about investment in machinery? So just stay with me. We want to take a quick commercial break. When we come back, we'll be continuing with this conversation just to be able to understand in terms of employment opportunities for our youth, how many numbers are we talking about? Stay with us.
Sherekea nasi upate nafasi ya kushinda zawadi kila wiki kuanzia 55-inch TVs, fridge na pikipiki. Treat familia na ununue StarTimes decoder madukani kwetu na kwa uzaji wetu nchi nzima. Lipia subscription yako upate nafasi ya kushinda zawadi kemkem kwenye draw za kila wiki. StarTimes, furahia maisha kidijitali.
Achoke, you do me bad. Aya, achoke, you do me bad.
Ulitengeza hela, ukaenda South Africa kidogo.
Mimi kweli sijawahi kufika South Africa.
How was it in prison, bro?
Life ni noma huko ndani.
I love that Gengeton is emerging.
Kumonchoka ni kufanya nini sasa?
Kumonchoka ni kutokea.
How did you feel after winning?
I was happy about it because it's something I've been working on.
I came from Meru. I didn't just come as mtu ajui ni nini anaenda kufanya.
Impossible is nothing, man. I can tell you. So you don't aim high. You shoot high.
Yote vanity. Oh, vanity.
As we feed the brains of our little ones in school, the Standard newspaper takes pride in knowing that we are making a mark in the growth of their minds through the Newspapers in Education program that steers them in the right direction, and we are proud of it.
My experience with NIE, I can say that I have really benefited from that newspaper. The newspaper can help me with vocabulary and imaginative and creative writing.
It helps in grammar and it's helpful, especially in English. It helps, like when you're writing, you don't write wrong spelling of words and wrong grammar, because grammar in English is very important.
To adopt and sponsor a school class on the NIE program, it will only cost 14,400 shillings per term or 43,200 shillings per year. For more information, please contact Ronnie Ouma on 0720-809-823 or rouma@standardmedia.co.ke. Newspapers in Education. Readers are leaders.
Tech has changed the way we live, work, or socialize.
15, 17 years ago when M-Pesa started, remember at the time those small Kabambe phones were 45,000 shillings.
As you know, Kenya is a leader in technology in the region.
There is a significant opportunity for such technologies to enhance healthcare in Kenya.
Rather than using cadavers, we're using augmented reality and visual reality.
Comparing an EV to something like, say, your favorite between a Demio is like comparing Thika Road to Nairobi Expressway.
This is the way the world works.
This is a fantastic opportunity.
But just how we use tech will determine how much we can gain. That's Tech File every Wednesday at 8:30 p.m. on KTN News.
KTN News. Get the whole story.
All right, and welcome back. Of course, we are still continuing with the conversation around the mining sector in the country. And gentlemen, one of the things I want to understand from where you sit, this is a sector that has a lot of potential to employ young Kenyans. But now, when it appears from where you sit, how then does the government step in and ensure that we are attracting foreign direct investment, but at the same time securing jobs for young Kenyans?
Well, thank you, Jimmy, once more. True, the sector has a lot of potentials. And there are so many ways young people can get into the sector. Apart from the formal employment, which may happen either at the senior management level, the middle level, or the lower levels, the sector do also provide avenues whereby youth can get either self-employment, they can get in as entrepreneurs. We appreciate the current generation. They are very much innovative. They can come in as traders. We do issue mineral licensing to traders, the processing licensing or permits to those who want to engage in the activities of mineral processing. But essentially, our mining law, that is the Mining Act 2016, also provides that.
Yeah.
The priority when mining company sets in, it should be given to locals, that is the Kenyan. And we do appreciate some mining companies that go ahead and to ensure that there are adequate human resources. They have sponsored a number of students in their community where they are mining from in courses which they feel may be relevant and important in future as far as the mining is concerned. And therefore the government do takes it seriously. And we do carry out monitoring and enforcement to ensure that companies abide by the condition of their licensing, especially matters to do with the employment.
All right.
Sorry, if I can just
go ahead.
There if I can. From a large-scale mining perspective, I think it's important that we demystify the mining sector when it comes to encouraging the youth to follow paths that will lead to employment. On our mine site down in Kwale, the general perception is...
All right, could you kindly, sorry, we understand we might be having a problem with your mic. Just hold, you can just take one of the mics. Sorry about that.
The general perception is that to work in the mining sector, you need to be a mining engineer or a geologist. The reality is that we employ a lot of people with technical trades. We've got a huge maintenance department. People who are mechanics and work on engines, can work on bulldozers, can work on vehicles, that can fix pumps, can do welding. Those technical skills, vocational skills that you don't necessarily get from a university, but you get from a technical training college. And it's those skills that actually aren't specific to the mining sector. They could be working for any other sector in the economy where that skill is transferable to the mining sector. So just would like the youth out here to think about that, that it's not just a university degree, but people who are involved in technical training, vocational training, plenty of opportunities, and in fact more opportunities than those sort of university degree type students.
All right, and Daktari, in terms of skilling our miners, what do you feel that the chamber can do to be able to build this skill gap that is currently there? A lot of our mining happens informally. Yeah.
Thank you, Jimmy. I think I will start from a point of looking at this from the angle of mining is a very specialized area. And just like Simon has said, it is important that we train people so that then they are able to deliver a specific service to their respective mine. As it were, we know that we have some people who will be responsible, for example, for constructing mines. There are people who will be responsible for the extraction. There are people who will be involved in the processing phase of it. So it is important that we try to build those skills. As it is now, I want to look at it from the perspective that we have around about 6, 7 universities that are training people in various skills in mining.
Yeah.
And perhaps from where we sit as industry, we are finding a gap that needs to be addressed. That yes, there's the training, but the training is more theory for 2 reasons. Reason number 1, I think we do not have enough minds in this country to offer people that service as it ought to be. Rather, places where people can go for internship, for attachment, and industrial training.
Yeah.
So that is a handicap. If we had more minds, then we would have better ground to train. The other one, I think, and this we must admit, is there has not, I don't think we do a lot of review on the curriculum to look at what the industry is asking for and those kind of things. And we must be arrived to the fact that technology is also changing very, very fast. I will say this because I've had this experience, whether I visit a mine in Vihiga, in Kakamega, in Taita Taveta, or in Kitui. The reality is that perhaps somebody who's gone through a formal post-secondary training institution may not be willing to get into a mine shaft.
Yeah.
For many reasons. So that tells us that there's something that needs to be done to address that gap. So my point is that as we develop more mines, then we'll have more opportunities to train people in skills that are relevant and specific to the mining activities around the specific mines.
All right, and it's a good point you raised there. And Dan, I want to get your sentiments in terms of what more needs to be done to be able to maximize the contribution of small-scale miners.
Thank you. One, in order to maximize the contribution of SM industry into the economy, one, we have to invest in the formalization of the sector. I say invest because if we don't invest, then it will be like a story being given, but we don't take the initiative of seeing into it that it happens. So if we actually, and all of us, the government, the miners themselves, all the players involved, if we really invest in formalization, then we'll expect to see a sector that will be generating as expected to the general economy of the nation.
Yeah.
And then we also need to embrace formalization of favorable legal frameworks to the sector. I say favorable because some of the legislations that we currently have, especially in the Mining Act 2016, are not favorable to the current artisanal and small-scale miner, in the sense that some of the definitions that are put in that act addressing what artisanal and small-scale mining is completely out of question today. Maybe they were practical, they were applicable by the time the drafters of the act were drafting the act, but going forward, as at now as it is, some of those definitions are outdated and they are no longer applicable. So these are some of the areas that if we can address, including incentives to the sector, because an incentive like training, we've just mentioned the training here, and we need to train miners even in entrepreneurship so that they know exactly how best to invest whatever they get from the little produce they get.
Yeah.
So that at the end of the day, we don't see them as people living from hand to mouth, but we see them as real investors into the economy so that they become the true contributors to the GDP of this nation. So we expect to see an improvement if we can improve in the way we invest in formalization, and also the way we address our legal issues pertaining to ASM industry, and also we prioritize the necessary incentives to give to the sector or to invest into the sector, so that we have a sector that is economically viable and that can produce and also improve the livelihood of the local people involved in the sector.
And actually, that note on improving the livelihood of the locals is where I want to bring in the PS. Where on a PS, how then do we bridge that gap? That where mines are, these are some of the most the poorest areas. So how then do we bridge that gap and ensure that yes, you have this great natural resource that benefits you first, even as it goes out to the world?
Well, I think the discussion relating to artisanal mining in this country has been taken for discussion for quite some time. The CS, Honorable Sari Mvurya, has more than once reiterated that artisanal mining currently has been discriminalized. So essentially, that's how we are bringing these artisanal mining together, so that they can be considered as a legal entity, despite the fact that majority of them may be working without papers. Well, it is unfortunate because you'll find where mining happens, where God has given community natural resources in terms of minerals, the living standard is not admirable. Why? Because of several factors. For instance, you'll find that if the mining is being carried out by artisanal mining, we have middlemen, brokers, who exploit these middlemen. And what do? Because of realizing that the artisanal mining may not be having the capacity to identify those mineral resources, they go ahead and they buy from these artisanal mining in very low prices. That is exploitation. But as a government, we have realized this. That's why we are calling upon the artisanal mining to come together. They form marketing cooperative. I believe they are strength when they are together. They are able to negotiate better prices. They are able to reach out to the government. They are able to be provided incentives, as Dan puts it, in terms of training, capacity building. Essentially, this government has Hustler Fund. The Hustler Fund is meant to uplift those who are in the bottom of the pyramid. And in our sector, artisanal mining are in the bottom of the pyramid. But it is difficult for the government to go on giving money to individuals. But when they are come together into a group, which is legally recognized, the government can be a grantor. Essentially, they are investors who are willing to provide equipment to artisanal mining. Bank and other financial institutions are willing to provide and extend credit to these artisanal mining. And it is through these that they will be able to get out of the situation where they have been. They get meaningful income from what they have been doing. And at the end of the day, either they can be large or medium miners, or their level of income, the revenue that they get from mining can be improved. And essentially, that's the only way we can change the living condition of those people who are residing where mining is happening, but their living condition are poor.
All right. In about a minute each, I know we're fast running out of time, so I'll get your closing remarks. And I want to start with you, Simon. Going forward, as far as mining is concerned, as far as investment into mining is concerned, what needs to happen?
Thanks, Jimmy, and thank you for having us tonight for the discussion. I think it's been said. I think the PS mentioned that the first thing we need to do is to lift the moratorium. I mentioned before, once the moratorium is lifted, we need prospecting licenses issued, so we get drill rigs drilling across the country to prove up whether these occurrences are actual mineral deposits that are viably mining. I just want to say that it was mentioned this morning in one of the sessions. Once we get to that point, the rest almost takes care of itself. The sort of human capital we have available in Kenya, the banking sector, the telecommunication, all that feeds into and will feed into creating a really dynamic and wonderful mining sector.
All right, Dr. over to you, and also maybe you can touch on the issue of diversification. We have a number of new natural resources that maybe miners can look into, as opposed to just looking at the specific ones, the common ones, the gold, the titanium.
Thank you very much. And Jimmy, that's a question at the right time. I want to say that the focus in this country, particularly in the ASM, has been on gold and gemstones. And that is a good thing because it has taken care of a number of people, a number of families are able to earn their livelihoods. But I want to speak to those following the program. When you look at life, almost everything we are using at home has something to do with mining.
Yeah.
If you talk about the steel structures, whether it's the building itself or some table, some chair somewhere in the office, if you look at your bathtub, if you look at the cistern, if you look at the kitchen sink, if you look at the tops, the granite tops in the kitchen, floor, ceramic tiles, all this stuff is mining. And I therefore want to urge Kenyans to have a fresh look at this industry.
Yeah.
I am not saying that we don't continue thinking gold and the gemstones. It is a good thing to do. But it is also important that we look at the other minerals, because indeed those minerals will help us, for example, in terms of making our contribution perhaps to the production of fertilizer that we so much need to advance the issue of food security, or then we'll be looking at these minerals, whether it's grass, which we get from, which is also a mineral anyway, for supporting what the president has been speaking so dearly about, affordable housing. We are well able to diversify and mine and build this economy.
All right, Dan, over to you in about 30 seconds. Let me just get your closing remarks.
Thank you. My closing remarks are two. One, I want to appeal to the government through the peers that we are sitting with here. Our peers has been very supportive, especially to our sector. And more so today, he has really taken his time to be with us from morning. And some of these discussions have been very important and very much at the right time for our sector. So I want to appeal that now that we are still waiting for the moratorium to be lifted, how I wish that the government may put emphasis now on the review of the Mining Act 2016.
All right, thank you so much, Dan. And of course, we really hope that the PS will take that into account. We want to thank you so much for making time to follow the conversation. And of course, this conference is going to go on for the next 2 days. And we hope that you can make time to come here and just listen in to some of the discussions and also offer your views. That's all the time we have for you this evening. My name is Jimmy Mbogo. Thank you for watching it once again.
Mko mtaani Zubaindi.